I'm Indian, 37. Left my home when I was 19 on a scholarship to try and build a better life. That was 15 years ago. I've since traveled and lived in 4 continents. I'm living in a multicultural city but predominantly white country. My travel has made me love food. I love cooking different cuisines. I'd cook Indian or Asian food 3 or 4 times a week and Western food like pasta, roast, pie, etc. rest of the time. I dance as a hobby so I burn lots of calories, which allows me to eat a lot and stay slim. I would also cook for my friends often. My travel has also exposed me to lots of bad people. It hit me hard in my early days. I tried to ignore it or try to explain why certain comments are hurtful but to no avail. I would cry often because I didn't understand why some people hated me just for the color of my skin. As years passed by, I got desensitized to it and started throwing their crap back at their faces. I realized that it wasn't my responsibility to educate these people on why they shouldn't be a piece of crap. Was quite empowering really. On to the story. My friends asked if I could host dinner last night. I was tired so I whipped up some simple dishes. A lentil curry with tomato, garlic and onions, rice, spicy okra and salad. A couple of my friends are vegan so I thought this would accommodate them. Phil, 34, brought his GF who I hadn't met before. She was a really big woman, this is important. She didn't really acknowledge me when I greeted her, which I found rude, but I shrugged it off. The drama started when she complained about the food. Not directly to me, but she kept telling Phil loudly that she couldn't eat what I made. I asked if she had any allergies, etc., but she flat out said she found the food disgusting. She gestured to my friends, most are white, and said she was shocked they could eat such smelly food. Phil told her to be quiet, but she went on about how she's trying to be healthy and wanted to eat normal food. What I said next might make me an idiot. Well, Sarah, looking at you gestures to all 300 pounds of her and looking at me gestures to myself, 115 pounds. Anyone with eyes can see who's the one eating garbage. My friends all laughed, including Phil. Sarah turned red and started to talk, but I cut her off. I told her to get her big idiot butt out of my house. Phil eventually had to drag her out. He later texted me apologizing on her behalf. Apparently she's autistic and couldn't get social cues. I told him I don't give a crap. Her disability wasn't my problem. My friends are on my side, but Sarah has been posting about me, calling me an awful idiot who shamed her. I know I was an idiot, but I really think she deserved it. I don't expect everyone to like my cultural food, but to call it smelly and disgusting in my home, hell no. One of my friends told me about you guys and get a third opinion. So here I am I the idiot? I have to reluctantly give this an everyone's the idiot here, although I think Sarah is an idiot more in this situation. You did shame her, but she was appallingly rude and terrible. Even taking the best possible interpretation of her initial reaction, that maybe the food was too far outside her comfort zone for her to handle. There's a big difference between, I can't eat this, and, I don't know how anyone else can eat this. It's smelly and disgusting. The former is a statement of your own limitations, the latter is just insulting to your host. And yes, someone with autism may miss social cues, but at the same time, neurodivergent people aren't magically immune to holding crappy idiot attitudes either. And you aren't obligated to sit there and coddle that in your own house. Not the idiot. Sure, there are nicer things to say, but you don't owe her being nice after she was rude AF in your house. As a picky eater, this sounds delicious, but cheese I wouldn't touch with a stick. I would say something like, I am so sorry, I know that you made a huge effort, but I really can't eat this because I am very picky. The salad is amazing, and I am not very hungry anyway. To the friends that know me, and if I come to somebody's house for the first time, I'll just bear with it and eat a little bit and lie how full I am, complimenting the dish. I raised an autistic son and I'm sick and tired of people excusing crappy behavior by saying they're autistic. Phil needs to tell Sarah, and phrasing it with the first 3 words is very important because people with autism love rules. The rule is, we don't criticize what someone cooks for us. We can say, I haven't yet learned to like that, and simply have a portion of something you will eat. But the rule is we don't criticize another person's cooking. I think no one has ever given her structure in her life and she's eaten her emotions and her feelings of being out of control. That isn't your issue. Nor is it that you didn't know she was autistic. Your response was appropriate and valid, and it's a good lesson to her about how she should act if she wants kindnesses in return. The world will not bow at her feet. Last week, my wife and I traveled to a music festival for about 5 to 6 days. I hired my mom, she needed the money. I needed a dog sitter to take care of things while we were away for an agreed upon price. We cleaned the house prior to leaving, left her with strict instructions for what to do with our Great Dane, stocked the fridge, wrote the Wi-Fi and desktop passwords down for her, and prepaid her so she'd have some money. Fast forward to yesterday, we arrived to find lots of things had been done to our home and it sent me into a fit. My wife and I are 30-somethings who just bought our very first house together, and it was bought remodeled and to our likings. The list is as followed. 1. Every wall in the house had been painted with a color that did not match our normal paint scheme. The job was also incomplete and patchy in most areas. The previous paint was totally fine, and only 7 months old. 2. Missing electrical outlet covers. Still don't know why. 3. 100+ cigarette butts in my rose-potted plant out front. 4. Items missing or moved. 5. Pictures hung and holes in walls. We did not intend on hanging anything yet until we decided on where we wanted things. 6. A shop light was ran over the kitchen table and tacked to the wall. 7. 6-foot ladder laid on vinyl records, destroying 3 of them in the process. 8. Spare house key made by my mom's boyfriend. Now I feel like I must change my locks. 9. Indoor dog bed thrown in the mud. 10. Duct tape found over the motion detectors and Ring doorbell. Not to mention the whole reason I needed her in the first place. The dog. He'd been left out back seemingly the entire time, he sleeps indoors and comes in frequently for heat breaks, barely fed, and his dog bed is caked in mud and rain and I feel it necessary to toss in the garbage now. Naturally, I lost my head and my cool. I immediately started yelling about the fact that this is not their home. It was not okay for them to treat our home like it was theirs, doing whatever flight or fancy entered their brains. I almost suspect a med binger. That's the only thing I can rationalize their thought processes with. The entire time, my mother refused to accept responsibility for the actions, began to cry, and called me ungrateful. I feel like I'm being gaslit by my own mother for being upset. Our relationship is now tarnished even further than it was, and my wife doesn't want her back here. The scenario has played in my mind countless times and I feel completely awful about yelling at her, but it's the complete lack of accepting responsibility on her part that has me fuming, on top of acting like nothing was even amiss. Am I an idiot here? Or was I justified in my right to be upset? Help me see clearly, guys. Update. Have completely ghosted my mom and blocked her cell number. I have changed the locks and begun the process of fixing my home out of pocket. I have not found any med-related items, yet. My dog is back to his chipper self and is scheduled for a veterinarian visit tomorrow. Not the idiot, but this is really bad. Like, call the police bad. I wonder, was it a complete surprise to you that your mom acted like this? She has no relevant history, because in that case, I would want mom evaluated for neurological problems. If not, if you should have suspected this might happen, you owe your partner an enormous apology and you must swear that finally, the blinders are off and you are no longer in denial. Get your locks changed, pronto. Time to tell mom she cannot be part of your life as long as she isn't sober. I was expecting like, some garbage laying around, some minor damage, maybe even something gone missing, but this situation is just terrible. That is truly nuts. So I would recommend at the very least changing your locks and not giving your mom the rest of her pay. And if she tries to insist, say that you will after she pays for all the damage to be repaired. Replace dog bed and vinyls, paint restored, locks changed, all of it. Oh, and needless to say, not the idiot, not by a long shot. Not the idiot. She's lucky you don't take her to court to cover the monies you are out for her incompetence. How absolutely awful for you both, and I agree with your wife. I would never let that woman in my driveway, let alone my house, ever. I realize she is your mother, but she is obviously toxic and sketchy, and no one needs that in their life. I'd send her a letter along with a bill of what her 5-day employment cost you. Good luck. Okay, so to start, I'm a 24 that lives at home with my parents. I have a job and pay rent. I just can't feasibly afford an apartment where I currently live by myself with my current job. Into the issue at hand, my mother for years will buy the wrong or healthier version of something that we need for cooking or eating. i.e., sugar-free Nesquik, margarine instead of butter, fat-free versions of anything that don't need to be fat-free. I have one hell of a Alfredo sauce recipe. It's delicious and I love it. Is it healthy? No, not in the slightest, but not everything needs to be healthy, especially when none of us in this household are unhealthy, overweight. Mom wanted me to make it for dinner and asked what I would need to make it, so I told her. I would need 2 cups of heavy cream, a bag of shredded Parmesan cheese, a stick of butter, flour, spices, and pasta water. All she needed to buy was heavy cream, and a bag of shredded Parmesan cheese, and some butter. Everything else we already had. I told her this recipe doesn't work, taste right without these specific things, and not to substitute anything or I wouldn't be making dinner. What does she come home with? A gallon of 2% milk, and a container of reduced fat grated Parmesan cheese, the kind you would sprinkle on spaghetti, and a tub of Smart Balance butter spread. None of these things were what I needed to make dinner with. I asked if the store was just out of everything, and she told me no, but these will work better. I have tried to make this with half and grated Parmesan cheese before. It's not a fraction as scrum-diddly issues compared to when it's made with heavy cream and shredded cheese. I told her that I needed everything that I said with no substitutions and that I wouldn't be making it, and she flipped. She said she didn't have anything else to make for dinner and that she doesn't know how to make it like I do. Yet, she couldn't follow simple instructions. Before any of you say, why didn't you go to the store? I didn't go because she said she would get everything and promised to not substitute anything and just get what I asked for. I didn't care the brand of anything she got. It could be the store brand stuff for all I care. I just needed heavy cream, butter, and a bag of shredded Parmesan cheese. She's now calling me ungrateful and uncooperative along with a multitude of other things that imply that I'm stupid and have something wrong with me, and threatening to kick me out if I don't make dinner. So, am I an idiot for not making dinner because my mom bought the wrong ingredients? Not the idiot. She's ridiculous. She's stuck in the late 80s or early 90s where these god-awful substitutes were considered the pinnacle of good health. We now know the additives necessary when you take good fat out of a food make it very much not good for people. And setting that aside, you can't make Alfredo sauce with that. Dear Lord above, I'm clutching my cast iron and fainting. Alton Brown is going to intentionally die simply so he can turn over in his grave in protest. 2% milk my copious white butt cheek. Not the idiot. Doesn't sound like your mother is a very good cook if she doesn't understand that ingredients matter. Actions have consequences. You told her that if she did not procure specific ingredients, you would be unable to provide the desired dish. Give her your recipe and tell her she is welcome to try to make it with the stuff she bought, but you aren't going to waste your time. It's like someone trying to knit a sweater out of sewing thread and a crochet needle. It's impossible. Honestly, though, this is such weird behavior on your mom's part. Does she have some sort of irrational fear of being big? I mean, I never use fake butter. It's all chemicals, and you can't fake the taste of real butter. Not the idiot. First of all, you are not living there for free and have no obligation to be your family's personal cook. The fact that you are willing to do it without hesitation says a lot about the type of person you are, and they should be grateful that you are doing it without putting up a fuss. Secondly, your mother sounds like she needs to figure out how to cook healthy on her own instead of disregarding instructions if she really has a craving for a certain food. Do not condone this behavior even if she is your parent, because that will only make it worse. I've, 24, been a zookeeper here for a few years, and when I got back after my 2-day weekend, I noticed that my daily tasks were a bit different than usual. Namely, they didn't include a couple necessary enclosure cleanings. I asked my manager if there was a swing keeper, someone else helping with those today, and she said, oh, no, someone's coming in for community service starting tomorrow and he'll be catching up on that. I was sort of suspicious though, since some things like cleaning the lion's night den we just have to do every day. It was usually my responsibility, so I made my way over there, past a suspicious walkway closed sign around the back path towards the lions, and was hit from 40 feet away with a horribly vile odor. When I staggered up to it and opened the door, it was unspeakable. Cat spray and old meat and excrement just festering in the sun. Important note: no animal was ever in any danger, I'm sure of that. No lions were in there. Animals can usually safely go much longer between cleanings than we clean. We clean more for the sake of our guests' noses than for the animals, and when it started to get really bad, they transferred the lions to the backup night den, as I later learned. It wasn't quite as much of an ammonia toxic fumes smell as a vile, rancid, gag-inducing smell either. There was ventilation, but my goodness, it stunk. I asked my manager what was going on, and she said that the offender coming in had been convicted of, shall we say, animal-related crimes, and that several zookeepers were leaving him similar surprises, while they took the opportunity to clean a bit less and catch up on paperwork, etc. in the meantime. Win-win, right? I asked around and most other keepers seemed fine with it and that it was an important part of his punishment. A penguin keeper said she was planning on having him sort through old fish and guano to try to find something a guest had reported lost a month ago. She doubted he'd succeed. And another said that he'd have to sort through the zoo restaurant's garbage to find recyclables to help the planet. Apparently some wanted to make him use bare hands but found that this would violate workplace safety, but were saying that, we can't find anything that requires giving him more than thin gloves. I didn't feel right about this, and started cleaning the vile lion dens. After the head keeper caught me, she got mad and accused me of not being a team player. I said I didn't feel right about what we were doing, but she said that it was important. She took me off the schedule for the next 2 days during his service, paid, thankfully, and now some of the other keepers are giving me funny looks. Am I the idiot? This makes me feel lucky. I got community service at the zoo once. Not an animal crime, just a low misdemeanor. Had to pick between a few places and the city zoo sounded cooler than the roadside. Just had to help build a couple new enclosures. Keepers were nice. It was hard, honest work. But one of the new enclosures I was building was near the tiger yard. At one point a tiger took the biggest crap, about 40 feet away from me. I laughed and kept working until the stench hit me 5 seconds later. I've never smelled anything like it. I was retching instantly and staggered away. The keepers were nice enough to let us all take a 30-minute break until someone could get in there to clean it and then let the area air out. I shudder to think of what might have happened if the keepers didn't like us. Not the idiot. Not the idiot. This seems like an HR issue. The offender has already received their punishment. Community service. It is not down to your boss or anyone else to inflict further punishment. That's for the courts to do and the courts alone. This is vigilantism, and well done OP for standing up for your morals, both for them and for the animals whose enclosures were left in a horrific state for someone's misplaced ego boost. Not the idiot. It is not the zookeeper's job to punish the criminal at the expense of the animal's welfare. There are limits to what a person can be forced to do on community service, and the offender may just flatly refuse such a constant barrage of vile tasks and transfer to a different work detail. What happens then? Even if they do the work, they will not do it as good as the actual keepers, so who pays the price? The poor animals. The other keepers are being petty and vindictive.